Yes, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope your Saturday was lovely. For the Seventh-day Adventist in the house, hope you had a beautiful Sabbath. So we'll be starting with number 171 because we'd answered number 170 in the previous session. So number 171 asks, the technique of using very small metal particles coated with the desired gene in the process of gene transfer is called what? The technique of using very small metal particles coated with the desired gene in the process of gene transfer. What is the name of that technique? Using small metal particles which we've coated with the desired gene product. As always, you can type your answer on the chat box. We'll read it out. You can also unmute if you're in a position to do so and just give out the answer you think is correct. And we'll discuss it. And also, while we are on this, I'll encourage someone else to be reading, or rather to be looking for something that really summarizes the various methods of gene transfer so that we can also summarize that. But on this question, the technique of using very small particles, metal particles coated with the desired gene. What is that technique called? Is it microinjection, biolistics, liposome, or electropolation? I think electropolation is that one you apply some electricity, and by applying electricity, it will, what will it do? It will impair, or for a few seconds, the permeability of the cell membrane, right? Then the liposome, I think you know the liposome, one side inside the hydrophobic, outside the hydrophilic, or vice versa. So microinjection versus biolistics. Microinjections versus biolistics. And if it's one, you can also tell us about the other.
Okay, from Google, it's biolistic method.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's saying it's a gene transfer method where the target gene or DNA is coated with gold or tungsten particle, and then the gold or tungsten coated target gene is accelerated into the target tissues.
Great. So biolistics. Just a second. Let me. Great. So biolistics, I'm seeing that Terry has sent something on the group about the biolistic methods, also known as the gene gun technology. So that's the other term for it, gene gun technology. And on this, is saying that biolistics, which is short for biological ballistics, involving delivering exogenous DNA, RNA, or protein to cells using mechanical force. The key feature of biolistics is the use of high-velocity microprojectiles to introduce foreign genetic material into the cell. How does it work? It works by particle coating, that is, particles usually made of heavy metals such as gold, tungsten, are coated with a gene of interest. Then these coated particles will be accelerated at high speed and fired into the target cell. The cell penetration will occur by the way you said, it will be fired into those cells, and the microprojectiles penetrate the cell wall and deliver the genetic material directly into the cell. Yeah. So what are the other methods of gene transfer, I think, and what can you say about them? Electropolation, or is it polation or poration? I think it's polation. Liposome, microinjection, and any other method of gene transfer that you may know of. I think biotechnology at no point have we mentioned anything on biotechnology. So what are the other methods of gene transfer? Methods of gene transfer.
Okay, for electroporation is the process of using an electric pulse to transfect cells with DNA.
So yeah, okay, there's that use of that electric
So
shock.
it's a type of a direct gene transfer.
Okay.
Yeah, so to add on that electroporation, so the cells, that mixture containing cells and everything, it's exposed to high voltage pulse, about 4,000 to 8,000 volts per centimeter for a few milliseconds. Then the high voltage will create pores on the cells that can now allow the DNA molecules and all other gene components to either seep in or out of that cell.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so electroporation, can put a tick. Yeah. Liposome. What about liposome? And microinjection, any other method that is not among these choices. Methods of gene transfer. So we've looked at electroporation, we've mentioned the biolistic, yeah. So, now on liposome or any other method that you may know of that you wanna tell us about.
And then in microinjection, it's manual procedure where a glass micropipette is used to manually introduce DNA into the nucleus of what you want to introduce. So it's manual. You use a micropipette to create small holes that now from which you can introduce your DNA.
Nice, nice. Thank you for that. What about now liposome?
I think liposome is a drug delivery system. It's not a method of.
It's not a method of gene transfer. Sure.
I thought liposome is a drug delivery system, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it is a drug delivery system. It's basically forming a vesicle with phospholipids to form like a bilayer so that the drug is inside that vesicle, so it is easy penetration of that liposome. Since it's a phospholipid, it can easily penetrate into the cells. So it's a drug delivery system, it's not a gene transfer technique.
I thought we saw it somewhere. Like I'm remembering somewhere seeing liposomes and a gene transfer.
Yeah, it's quasar indirect ones. I don't know anything about it, but I know it's there, liposomal mediated gene transfer.
Yeah. Yeah, I've found it. I'll send a screenshot to the group. Like lipoplex mediated transfection, also called liposomal. Yeah, the mechanism is the same. It's what Hiral and was it Liz? I'm not sure. I'm not sure who had unmuted. But the mechanism is what you've described. It's just that in this case, it's delivering some genetic material, but the mechanism is as exactly as you have described it. Yeah. Any other method of gene transfer that perhaps is not among the choices?
I think transformation, transfection, that bacterial conjugation and transduction. I'm not sure if that is also part of gene transfer.
It was, yeah, and where we say transformation is that introduction of genetic materials into bacteria, whereas transfection is introduction of genetic material to eukaryotes. So stuff like humans, plants, animals, that is transfection. But for bacteria, when you're introducing genetic material, we call it transformation. Then transduction was whereby you are using viruses to introduce the genetic material. Lipofection was the other one where you're using liposomes. So yeah, even those ones are on a gene transfer under the various definitions. So when it's a bacteria, it is transformation. When it's an eukaryote, it's transfection. When you're using a virus, it's transduction. Of course, when you're using liposomes, it will be lipofection.
There is also another method is the polymeric nanoparticles. This is where you use I think tiny particles like the likes of chitosan, even polyglycolic acid to deliver the gene into the bacteria. Also, there is the use of micelles, polymeric micelles, and dendrimers. Yeah, you can read more about how they work, but yeah, that's all I know.
Okay, perfect. I think we have covered the various methods of gene transfer. I see something has been shared on the group. I'll also share some of the notes that cover the same topic. Moving on to the next. Transformation is a method of introducing foreign DNA into bacterial cell. Yeah, yes, Beth. Yeah. Introx, just mentioning something, just reading out the charts here so that we don't miss out. Introx is saying liposome-mediated gene delivery. The principle, we have liposomes or lipid-based vehicles are used to encapsulate and deliver genes into target cell. It's used both in research and in gene therapy application. Tour is also mentioning about liposomes, where liposomes bind and condense DNA spontaneously to form complexes with high affinity to cell membranes. Endocytosis of the complexes followed by disruption of the endosomal membrane appears to be the major mechanism of gene delivery. Perfect. So on gene transfer, those methods as shared. We can continue to number 172. The question asks, preserving germplasm or something, I don't know. Preserving germplasm in a frozen state is termed as dash. Preserving germplasm in a frozen state is termed as dash. Is it cryopreservation? Tour has said that cryopreservation is a process that preserves organelles, cells, tissues, or any other biological constructs by cooling the samples to very low temperatures. It's a process of preserving organelles, cells, tissues by cooling the samples to very low temperatures. That's the definition of cryopreservation. So based on that, can we say that cryopreservation is the answer there? Are we in agreement? Two is also talking about vernalization is the induction of a plant's flowering process by exposure to the prolonged cold of winter or by an artificial equivalent. So vernalization, just a definition of the various terms used in that question, is the induction of a plant's flowering process, so whereby you're inducing the plant's flowering process through exposure to prolonged cold of winter or by an artificial equivalent. So that has nothing with preserving the germplasm. Then perhaps on this, because I'm seeing that term, can we remind ourselves of the various temperatures? When we say cool temperature, we say in a refrigerator, they are in pharmaceutics, or yeah, I think that is more pharmaceutics. At what temperature do we say cold, cool, room, such things? The various temperatures. Cold storage would be under what degrees Celsius to what degrees Celsius? Anyone with an idea on the storage temperatures? We're talking about the storage temperatures. Anyone?
I have something to say. I think when you say cold storage, it usually means the pharmaceuticals which need refrigeration. It doesn't have a range.
But if we say something needs cold storage and another one needs refrigeration, what temperature are we referring to? What's the, or rather, if you're told this one is to be refrigerated, like there's, and one is for cold temperature, there were those different.
Refrigerated is 2 to 8. Then cool is 8 to 15.
So refrigerated is 2 to 8.
Yeah.
Then cool
is 8 to 15. I think 8 to 15 cool.
Then what was below 2? It's on the group. Let me see the group. Nice. So Stanley has sent it on the group. The freezer is, I think, -20 to -10. Then the cold storage here is cold place, not exceeding 8 degrees Celsius. Refrigerator, yeah, is what we're saying, 2 to 8, cool 8 to 15. Room temperature, the room temperature is warm, 30 and 40 degrees Celsius. Excessive heat above 40 degrees Celsius. So I think those, I'd say the first 4, those are all, generally those are cold temperatures generally. So the freezer is the negatives, -20 to -10. Cold place, temperature not exceeding 8 degrees Celsius. Then refrigerator 2 to 8, cool 8 to 15. Yeah, so that's so just cold, refrigerator, and cool. They follow themselves like that. Cold, not exceeding 8, refrigerator 2 to 8, and cool 8 to 15. Moving on, I think 172, you say that is cryopreservation. So here on cold storage, we've appreciated that cold storage will be 2 to 8. Wait, is it 2 to 8? If I can just take you guys back, cold place. Cold place, does that count as cold storage? Like as I think Lydia was saying, so based on what has been sent to the group, and you're told this medication is a cold storage chain medication, what temperatures should it be kept at?
I'd say that time for not exceeding 8.
Temperatures not exceeding 8. Okay.
I think like that one I'm basing it on made for the cold storage stuff, they're putting it in a cold room that temperature should not exceed. Was it 7 or 8? The alarm will go on at 8 degrees. That's what I'm basing it on.
So based on that, to this 2 to 8, yeah, refrigerator. Okay.
It's 2 to 8 because even for vaccines, they're normally stored, I think, between that 2 to 8.
Perfect. So cold storage 2 to 8, cold chain 2 to 8. So vaccines 2 to 8. Moving on to the next question. Number 173, which one of the following processes is not associated with genetic recombination in bacteria? Which one of the following processes is not associated with genetic recombination in bacteria? Is it conjugation, transition, transduction, or transformation? I'm seeing 2 has already said that the answer is transition. The answer is transition. Then perhaps on this, we didn't get to define, or rather to just go through the methods of gene transfer. Not now when we are the ones doing it, but when bacteria are doing it. How does resistance spread from one bacteria to the other? The various methods. Can we just look at that real quick? That how bacteria will transmit plasmids or genetic material between each other the natural way. If someone knows or can just summarize those methods, tell us what they entail, such things, to really be great.
Rudia swali.
Methods of gene transfer from one bacterial cell to the other. There are usually 3: conjugation, transduction, and transformation. So what do each entail? Or even it's just the choice is listed there: conjugation, transduction, transformation. What does conjugation entail? How is conjugation different from transduction? And how is that different from transformation? If you know perhaps about one, you can just unmute, you can send a text here, say perhaps conjugation, this is how it happens.
Okay, for conjugation,
Mhm.
it involves the plasmid So it's like normally just means mating process where two individual bacterial cells transfer genetic material. So there's the fertility factor, F plus. So that's the cells, the bacterial cells that have the fertility factor. Those are the ones that initiate the conjugation. So the donor cells now, like it builds a sex pillars. It's like a connection. A sex pillars is like a connection. So the one that has the fertility factor will build a sex pillars, and that sex pillars will attach to the other bacteria which doesn't have the fertility factor, and that's how it will transfer the genetic material to the recipient. Donor from recipient. Donor is the one which has the fertility factor positive. So it involves plasmids, which is the extra aside, like it's the extra DNA other than the DNA that's in the, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. If you get, if you understand.
I think, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Let me just see. Yeah. Dr. Shrina sent something on the group. I'll just read it out. Conjugation, transformation, and transduction. Number one, we start with conjugation. It's a DNA from a donor cell. This is bacterial cell, is transferred to the recipient cell through a conjugation tube, also known as the pili or pillars, as my respected senior has said. Number two, transformation. This is whereby there is uptake of naked DNA molecule from the remains of another bacterium by the other bacterium. So there's a bacteria that left its DNA lying around, and this other bacteria just took it up, right? That is transformation, whereby a bacteria has just taken some other DNA found lying around. Uptake of naked DNA from the remains of one bacterium by another bacterium. Finally, we go to transduction, and a transduction is whereby the bacterial genes are carried from a donor cell to a recipient cell by a bacteriophage. I think this also relates to what we had said about transduction earlier, whereby we were having gene transfer using viruses. We know bacteriophage are also viruses. So that's the difference between conjugation, transformation, and transduction. In conjugation, we need a sex pillars. In transformation, there's just naked DNA being taken up. In transduction, we are having a bacteriophage being the star of the show, right? So conjugation, pillars, don't forget that. Transduction, bacteriophage, transformation, we are having an uptake of naked DNA by one bacterium, yeah, from another. Moving on to, unless someone has something to add.
For the transformation, we can also remember it where, like, mostly it transfers the naked fragment that you said DNA is transferred to another bacteria. Most of it it's transferred from a harmful bacteria to a harmless bacteria. So once the genetic material has been transferred to the harmless, now itself also becomes a harmful bacteria. So we can remember that as the differentiating factor for transformation.
Yeah. A villain leaves its DNA lying around, and then an innocent takes it up and it becomes a villain, right? Yeah, thank you for that, Dr.
Yeah, so the main reason the DNA is lying around is when we kill a bacteria. So like in case of an infection, the bacteria is killed. So now if we kill the bacteria, it leaves its DNA lying around so that it can infect other bacteria.
Nice. Thank you so much. You've really, yeah,
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. I hope now that's clear. Number 173. All those terms, if they were unfamiliar, now they are familiar. Moving on to number 174. The question asks, which one of the following is not? Which one of the following is not a semi-solid dosage form? Not a semi-solid dosage form. Emulsion, ointment, jelly, paste. Which one we following is not a semi-solid dosage form? So here I'm expecting people to unmute and shout the answer real quick. So following is not a semi-solid dosage form. Is it gel? Is it paste? Is it ointment? Or is it emulsion? Which one is not a semi-solid dosage form? Daktari is saying emulsion, right? I think we are all in agreement that an emulsion is not a semi-solid dosage form. That one will be under the liquid dosage forms. Now, just on this, I don't know, Shrina, have we discussed just briefly, majorly, I think as per the PPB guidelines is the test for the various emulsions. Like
No,
how
no.
do we differentiate? We haven't, okay. So emulsions. We have principally, we have the two types of emulsions. We have the oil in water and water in oil. Of course, we can have water in oil in water or oil in water in oil. But majorly we have water in oil and oil in water. So how can we, what tests can we use to differentiate the various, if this is a oil in water emulsion or vice versa? Anyone? And anything you can add on emulsions. I think in terms of pharmaceutics, we just say the answer and move on, and pharmaceutics is a major thing also. So anything you can add in terms of emulsions, you can even just define what is an emulsion. What are the QC tests for emulsion? Anything you know on emulsions, it will really help us.
One of the methods for testing was electrical conductivity. So
Okay.
if an emulsion is an oil in water emulsion, and it will conduct electricity. If it's an water in oil, it will not. Yeah, I think that's the one I can remember.
Nice. The electrical conductivity test, whereby if it's a oil in water emulsion, that means water is the continuous phase. Then that emulsion will conduct electricity. But if it's water in oil, given the oil is the one in abundant supply, it will not conduct electricity. Nice. So we have the electrical conductivity test. Any other test that we can use to differentiate between water in oil versus oil in water? We've been told one, that is the electrical conductivity test.
The dye test, where water soluble
The dye test.
dye will only, the water soluble dye will dissolve in the aqueous phase, and the oil soluble dye will dissolve in the oil phase.
Yeah, that's simple. The dye test. A water soluble dye will dissolve in the aqueous phase, whereas an oil soluble dye will dissolve in the oil phase. Yeah, so the dye test. Water soluble will dissolve in the aqueous, and oil soluble will dissolve in the oil phase. Nice.
Dilution test.
Dilution test. Tell us about the dilution test.
Let's say you dissolve it, let's say like in water. So if it is an oil in water emulsion, the oil will just, but most of it will dissolve in the water. And if it's if you use oil to dissolve, or vice versa, like based on which one will dissolve more. Does that make sense? I don't know how I've explained it well.
Yeah, dilution test. Oil in water emulsion, we can be diluted with water, right? Because it's an oil in water. But a water in oil emulsion can be diluted with oil. You know, it's classic class 2 stuff, right? So we've looked at, again, we started with the electrical conductivity. We saw only oil in water emulsions can conduct electricity. We went to the dye test. where a water-soluble dye will dissolve in the aqueous phase, whereas an oil-soluble dye will dissolve in the oil phase. For the dilution test, we've seen oil in water emulsion, only water will be able to dilute it. Water in oil emulsion, it's only oil that can dilute it. Any other tests maybe we may be leaving out?
The
Yes,
cobalt chloride test, but I don't know the results for that.
Which one?
Cobalt chloride.
Or cobalt chloride test.
Yeah.
Anyone who can assist with the cobalt chloride test? Perhaps as
It's more used. I think it's mainly used for an oil in water emulsion. So if you have like a filter paper that has been soaked with cobalt chloride, then you dip it in an oil in water emulsion, it changes color. Sisi hiyo color, sikumbuki ni color gani.
so an oil in water, it will change color.
Yeah, so since cobalt is blue,
Wanasema from Google it's saying pink.
yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, perhaps I can add the last one, or at least the fluorescence test, whereby oils usually they will fluorescent, or that word, under the UV light, but water will not. Hence, based on that, water in oil emulsion will fluorescent, but oil in water emulsion will just show some dots. Yeah. So the fluorescence test. Assuming, unless someone has something to add on the test, I'm saying Abdul Malik has now taken us to the stuff to watch out for, right? The errors, what can happen, what can go wrong with emulsions. We can have cracking, we can have creaming, we can have phase inversions. So those are the following troubles or errors that can happen with emulsions: cracking, creaming, and phase inversion. So perhaps someone can tell us
Which
about
ones were?
Yeah, go on, Mystic.
No, I'm not even sure if it's the same this formulation. But which ones were like the reversible and which ones were non-reversible? Was it in this formulation? Some of those
Some of these
problems, like the yes version of irreversible things.
We're not able to hear you properly.
Yeah, you're breaking a bit.
You can just type it on the chat.
Yeah, perhaps someone can be telling us about cracking, creaming, phase inversions, and Mystic is asking among them which one was irreversible, which one was reversible, you know. Yeah.
For cracking, it's usually the continuous phase and the dispersed phase are usually separated, and it's usually due to coalescence of the dispersed phase, the globules of the dispersed phase. And then for creaming, now the dispersed phase usually moves upwards, and then it forms like a thick layer on the surface of the emulsions. Now, I don't know what mistake means, but for cracking, it's when an emulsion undergoes cracking, it's usually difficult to redisperse. But then for creaming, it can be redispersed. Like it's easier than cracking. And then phase inversion is now when one type of emulsion changes to another type, like oil in water or water to water in oil now, maybe due to changes in temperature or like changing the emulsifier, something like that. Yeah.
Great. So
Cracking was irreversible. That's what Janet was trying to ask.
And I'm
yeah.
not too sure, but I think even phase inversion is irreversible. Like you can't, once it has in, yeah, I think it's all that, but I'm not too sure.
How much she meant is these are suspensions, the flocculated and deflocculated ones.
We could actually, I wanted us to go there next. Yeah. So perhaps just before we finish, or before we do what we put a pin on emulsions, just to repeat what has been said, that the various instabilities, emulsion instabilities, we have the cracking, we have the creaming, and we have the phase inversion. I'll start with the easiest because I'm lazy like that. So the easiest was the phase inversion, whereby a water in oil emulsion becomes an oil in water. Literally, there's phase inversion. An oil in water becomes a water in oil, and vice versa. Phase inversion. The continuous phase becomes a dispersed phase. Then for cracking, it was mentioned that what we were seeing in cracking is the coalescence of the dispersed phase, resulting in the separation of the emulsion into the two layers. We are having coalescence. The coalescence is like coming together of the dispersed phase, leading to separation of the two layers. I think the other one was creaming. Creaming, it's just the way the cream forms as you're boiling, as the milk stays, whereby we are having either one layer will go to the top, all right, whereby there's that elevation, or even it can be sedimentation. Of course, it will be based on the density, whereby they either move up or they move down. These are the droplets of the internal phase or of the dispersed phase, producing a layer of concentrated emulsion, either at the top or at the bottom, right? Then there's one more. I'm just having a reference here that we didn't mention. I'm seeing flocculation. Flocculation is also an issue with emulsions, whereby the droplets, they flocculate. Literally, I think it's easier when we say what flocculation is when we're talking about suspension. But essentially is whereby the droplets will flocculate. However, it's easily reversible by shaking. Okay. So moving on to
Something else. Like the rate of creaming is dependent on Stokes' law. So like so the higher the particle size, like the higher the rate, and the difference between the densities, the greater the difference in the density between the continuous phase and the dispersed phase, then the higher the rate of creaming. And also viscosity. Is it viscosity? Yeah, the higher the viscosity, the lower the rate then. Yeah.
Nice. So creaming, we are applying here Stokes equation, right? Whereby if the radius is big, the difference between the density is big, that will promote creaming. There'll be a higher rate of creaming. However, the higher the viscosity, the lower the rate of creaming. I hope I've said that correct. Okay. Great. Then I'm really sorry, guys. I take a lot of time before I move to the next question. But now we'll go to just quickly, we'll go to suspensions. I wanted to ask before, okay. I'll
Sorry,
just take
guys.
it back to
Sorry, I think as we're doing that, I think maybe we could just remind ourselves of the different classification of emulsifying agents.
Nice. That's where I wanted to ask quickly, just go through that, the surfactants. Yeah.
Yeah, the hydrocolloids, the surfactants.
Perfect. So people just hold on. Today we are finishing emulsions. So perhaps Shrina, where do we start? Do we start with the surface active agents, or
We can start with the hydrocolloids.
start with the hydrocolloids? But you can. What do you know about hydrocolloids? Perhaps you can start. Then we can add.
Okay, they can either be semi-synthetic polysaccharides or synthetic. If they are semi-synthetic, they are derived from naturally occurring polysaccharides like cellulose, and they're generally used in oil in water emulsions. And they have low viscosity. So example would be methyl cellulose, carboxymethyl cellulose. And then the synthetic hydrocolloids would be carbopol, polyvinyl alcohol, and polyvinyl pyrrolidine. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Anyone perhaps with something to add on that? Something to just anything to add on what she's talked about? She talked about the hydrocolloids being there. I think they are used as emulsion stabilizers, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she's talked about the semi-synthetic, like the sodium carboxymethyl cellulose, CMC, right? And also the other one is polyvinyl. Shrina, perhaps it was poly. I'm writing this down.
Propyl methyl cellulose, hydroxy propyl methyl cellulose.
Oh,
HPMC.
Hydroxy. HPMC.
Yes.
Yeah, HPMC. Nice. So these polymers, they are mostly used as the emulsion stabilizers, right? They're used as the emulsion stabilizers. Okay. Then also we can, is Sonia here? I think Sonia was, she summarized. Sonia, can you, if you are available to unmute, if you can just again quickly summarize the surface active agent, the surfactants. You had done so previously, just again quickly, because we are just looking at emulsions, the various classes and the most commonly used surfactants. To unmute. Okay. She's not in a position to unmute. So yeah, surface active agents, I think surfactants. What are the various categories of surfactants? The anionic, cationic, non-ionic, and like just quickly, anyone or and examples.
Okay, I can help you with that. So we have the ionic. examples like the sulfates, you see like the sodium lauryl sulfate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then non-ionic, we have like the span and twin. Like I'm saying the famous surfactants.
Yeah.
Or emulsifying agents. Like yeah. So we have the span and the twin are in the non-ionic. Then we have the cationic. Something to note about the cationic is that we have the quaternary ammonium compounds. Yeah, like the alkyl ammonium chlorides, cetylpyridinum salts. Yeah. Then for the amphoteric, you see like the amphoteric, the sweet ions. I think the definition is self-explanatory, but we have like amino acid derivatives and the anything amino oxide, and we have this famous one which is called lecithin.
Lecithin.
Yeah, and something to note about the amphoteric is that they are used for baby shampoos. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, so she summarized the major ones, even the ones we should know, the anionic, the sodium lauryl sulfate especially. The cationic talked about the quaternary ammonium compounds. And just perhaps something I can add on cationic is that they also possess this and I think it's bactericidal activity, or rather they can also be used as preservatives. Right, they have that microbicidal activity. And also she's talked about the non-ionic, where we have the kinaspan and kinatwin coming in here, span series, the twin series. And something perhaps Sonia mentioned last time is that the non-ionic surfactants are by far the most used types of surfactants. The non-ionic surfactants are by far the most used, right? The other parts will share a document that really summarizes all that. So quickly again, please, we are done with emulsions, unless someone has something to add. Let me check the chat box. Okay, nothing on the chat box. So moving on to the suspension, emulsions and suspensions, they are usually related. We already mentioned the concept of flocculated and deflocculated suspensions. So yeah, on suspension, what is a suspension? You can just say what you know about suspensions. You may be surprised that is the one thing we are going to learn that to us we did not know. So suspensions. Just the definition of what's a suspension, or you can just tell us the difference between flocculated and deflocculated suspensions. Anything you may know on suspension.
Okay, let me talk about flocculated and deflocculated. So for the flocculated ones, it's in the name, like the particles are usually in form of flocks, like the loose aggregates. And so when it's even the sedimentations, the sediment is the sediments in the cake are in loose aggregates. The rate of sedimentation in flocculated suspension is high. The supernatant will be clear, and for flocculated suspensions, they're usually easy to redisperse. And then for deflocculated now, these particles, instead of being in loose aggregates or flocks, they're usually in a separate entity. So the rate of sedimentation there will be slow. And then the supernatant is cloudy, and like in the flocculated one where it's clear. So, and then the cake that forms in the flocculated suspension is usually compact or hard. And for deflocculated suspension are usually, now they're difficult to redisperse. Yeah, that's all I know.
That's all she knows, that's all she knows. I think that's everything, but unless someone has something to add. I know Mystique, she's a very big fan of suspensions. Don't know if she has anything to add on the same. Yeah. Or anyone on suspensions. She's really told us the differences between flocculated and deflocculated suspension. Dr. Soni is saying that sedimentation is high for large particle size, decreased sedimentation in suspension with high vehicle density. So whereby there's an high viscosity, we're expecting that there'd be decreased sedimentation, but whereby we have a high particle size, we will be having a high rate of sedimentation. Again, not sure, but perhaps someone can confirm when we are talking about sedimentation, is Stokes law also being applied when we're talking about sedimentation? I think it is being applied, but I'm not sure. Perhaps someone can advise. And Kemonto is telling us that we should know of the zeta potential. The zeta potential. Kemonto, perhaps you can tell us more about the zeta potential. Is it that electrical double layer that I had once in class, but I dozed off? I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's the repulsive forces that keep the particles in a sediment, keep the particles apart. So the deflocculated has high zeta potential. That's why the sedimentation is so slow. But for the flocculated, they have a very high zeta potential, very low zeta potential. That's why the rapid sedimentation. Yeah.
Nice. So for flocculated, we have a low zeta potential, so the rate of sedimentation will be higher than for the deflocculated, which has a higher zeta potential.
Exactly.
Nice. On that note, my respected senior, Dr. Fatma, she sent something beautiful to the group, differentiating between flocculated and deflocculated. Just allow me to add that the zeta potential is low in flocculated. That seems something that is an MCQ testable question. High in flocculated. Perfect. Anyway, anyone else with something to add on suspensions? I know we've spent quite a bit of time on suspension and emulsion, but we believe we've learned a thing or two, right? Okay. There's no one, can proceed to the next question. Dr. Sule is adding that.
The IPQC tests for suspensions.
The IPQC test for suspension. Before we just head to the IPQC test, Kasone is adding that for Stokes law, particle sedimentation velocity is directly proportional to density difference between the solid phase and the liquid phase. That the particle sedimentation velocity is directly proportional to the density difference between the solid phase and the liquid phase. So that sedimentation rate will be directly proportional to the difference between the density of the solid and the density of the liquid. That also Stokes law is used to determine the rate of sedimentation. So Stokes law, tonight, do not sleep without knowing Stokes law. Right? Stokes law is majorly low. Now, on IPQC, the IPQC test for suspensions. What are the IPQC tests for suspensions? Anyone? Feel free to unmute. Say what you know. What are the IPQC tests for suspensions? You can even say appearance. You know,
The
appearance.
one that I can.
Yeah, go on.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Now you're breaking.
Volume, sedimentation. Okay, now you can hear me?
Loud and clear, loud and clear.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying the sedimentation volume, where you see how fast it or how slow it takes for the suspension to sediment. So it's usually like a value between 0 and 1. So the higher the value, like if it's 0.9, then the better the stability of the suspension.
Nice. Nice. So yes, you talked about the sedimentation volume. That's one of the IPQC tests for the suspension, right? Whereby you test that rate of sedimentation. Okay. Any other IPQC test?
The density test. So if the density is decreased, that means there's entrapped air in the suspension.
The density tests. Yeah, so if the density is decreased, it suggests that there is air, entrapped air in the suspension. Remember, density is equals to mass over volume. So if there is air, the volume will have increased, so the density will decrease. So we looked at the IPQC tests that have been mentioned. Let me just repeat them. We started with the sedimentation volume, right? From the sedimentation volume, we've now looked at the density tests. Mimi, there is one I always go with to all exams, that is the appearance, use of your naked eye to make sure that the suspension looks good. You can never go wrong with appearance. Appearance matters. Anything else? I think it wasn't mentioned, but it was alluded to, and that is about the measurement of the zeta potential, right? The measurement of the zeta potential, whereby, as mentioned now, the zeta potential will, if it's low, it means that thing will rapidly flocculate. If it's high, it means it is quite stable. Yeah.
Just adding on to that, just the values, if it's more than 61 millivolts, then it's excellent stability. If it's between 0 to 5, then you'll have flocculation taking place.
So you want it, yeah, more than 61, it means that that stuff has been made by a licensed, a registered pharmacist. It has excellent stability. But if we see the stability is somewhere between 0 to 5, we start saying that has been made by a paraprofessional. Okay. More than 60, we say that is excellent stability. 0 to 5, we distance ourselves from such a product. That is not our job.
There is also the the redispersibility test.
read its possibility. Just from the word, it's self-explanatory, right? That the particles will be easily be redispersible by just shaking it a bit. If it's not, then we say that that stuff is not of the quality we expect. Can we think we can proceed?
Sorry, the main
Yeah.
here is also the particle matter test or clarity test, which can be done using visual method, photomicroscopic method, change in the electrical resistance, and light scattering.
So the test, that one was you've measured, you call it what test? The particle clarity test.
Sorry?
You said clarity test.
Yeah, or particle matter test.
Clarity or particle matter test. Nice. That literally you just check for the particulate matter. Right? You can use the photomicroscope, the Coulter counter, yeah, such stuff. Moving on, unless someone has something to add, if you have a burning point to add on suspensions or emulsions, we don't want to close the chance for you, so just put it on the chat box. Now, moving on to number 175. What is the branch of medical science that deals with doses of quantity of drugs to be administered? The branch of medical science that deals with the dosage of drugs to be administered. I think we have in the posology. I'm seeing the chat box. Yeah, I think for that there are no arguments there. We've defined rheology, we've defined idiosyncratic reactions, pharmacology. If someone doesn't know the definition of pharmacology, they are joking. They are joking at this stage. Just a second. Perhaps someone else can be reading while I pick the call.
Okay, number 176. Tinctures are defined as anyone with the answer?
The alcoholic liquid preparation.
Okay. Since we're on this question, what's the difference between tinctures and elixirs?
I think elixirs also have
elixirs
alcohol,
do
but the
have
difference is that they are sweetened, I think.
So
But there's still alcohol, like they still contain this alcoholic liquids, or it's still different.
What he read?
They both contain alcohol.
Oh, it's just,
okay,
I was asking what's the difference
that's
between
a half alcohol.
you're breaking. So tinctures have just the alcoholic liquid, and then now elixirs have the alcoholic liquid plus like a sweetener, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
The one that was more viscous than the other.
Okay, so I'm not too sure. Someone on the group on the chat box has written, elixirs typically contain a combination of herbs, alcohol, sweeteners such as honey or sugar, while tinctures are usually made of just alcohol and herbs. Okay, okay, that's okay. Okay. Are there any other like dosage forms that we can talk about? Not the main ones like tablets and all we know, but any other like that is like different, like the
Hello.
tinctures, elixirs.
You see the sweet viscous concentrated aqueous solution is a syrup, and it's different from a linctus because a linctus has no sweetness, like it has no sugar.
Okay. So if
Yeah.
we compare, you said syrup,
Yeah, syrup and linctus
linctus, or they're the same. It's just that the linctus will not have,
is sugarless. Yeah.
it's sugarless. Okay.
Yeah, and they're viscous. Like that is something to note about them.
Okay. Any other like different dosage form?
Guys, wait. Before we go to the dosage forms, 175. Like I thought, okay, pharmacology is basically like all things concerned with dosages, how drugs work in the body and what. But posology is specifically for dosages, specifically like quantity, like it's a subclass. Like there's pharmacology as a big term, and then posology is like a sub branch of pharmacology,
Yeah,
which deals specifically in
yeah.
dosages. So I would think it would be the most correct answer. So why is D highlighted?
I think we went for A, I'm not sure. Or
Yeah,
I
we
thought we
agreed with A.
yeah, with A, yeah.
Yeah, we're going with the
okay. Thank you.
welcome comforts.
Guys, you can continue.
We've exhausted the Nini. What we were discussing under that question. Dr. Sonia is saying that perhaps we can look at external liquid dosage forms such as liniments. And was Shrina answered, or was her request hidden? Someone to repeat on the linctus. I don't know if it was repeated.
Okay, so the linctus and a syrup are same. It's just that a linctus will not have now that sweet. It's not going to be sweet. So in this question, option A is a syrup, but if that sweet was not there, then it would be a linctus.
Nice. Okay. Now, what about the external liquid dosage forms, such as the liniments? Let me see what other ones she sent something on the group. The liniments, the lotions, the colloidons, and the paints. Yeah, the liniments, the lotions, the colloidons, and the paints. I think previously we saw something about colloidons, and one of us thought it's colloids. Yeah, I think that was Warren. He was enlightened, but we can so if someone knows something on liniments or on colloidons, on lotions, or on paints, kindly just enlighten us on the same. Or even just even a definition can suffice. What's a liniment? What's a lotion? What's a colloidon? Or rather, not even a definition. How different are they? I think that is much better, because in such a question like question 176, you see, sweet, viscous, semi-solid, solid, like, yeah. On that, I think we can put that as a star, to be continued. External liquid dosage forms, to be continued. And we haven't, we haven't found anyone to cover it, so we give you the assignment for next time. You'll come back and you'll tell us the external liquid dosage forms, or you can also just share on the group a summarized version of the same. Moving on to number 177, the question asks, friability testing of tablets tests for, is it the hardness, is it the thickness, is it the uniformity of weight, or the ability to withstand abrasion? Hardness, thickness, uniformity of weight, ability to withstand abrasion. Tablets are the most common form of dosage form. So tablets, we have to should be able to sing them. So in friability testing, what do we test? Is it the thickness, hardness, or the ability to withstand abrasion? Personally, I think it's choice D, ability to withstand abrasion. You can see Tour is always writing with small letters, but everyone else has written with a capital letter D, which is the right way of writing. Yeah, so that is capital letter D. Friability testing, it tests the ability to withstand abrasion, right? So just on this, what are the other, just quickly. Yeah, then Abdul Malik is just adding that that the friability needs to be below 1%, right? The friability needs to be below 1%. It's more than 1%, it fails that test. It's more than 1%, we say imeanguka mtihani, right? Then what are the other QC tests? For tablets, you should be seeing already here. We've seen there's a hardness test, the thickness test, uniformity of weight. As always, I'm always telling you, you can take it to the bank. Appearance is also a QC test. That is the one I always go with. Appearance. Appearance matters. Right? Any other QC test of tablets?
The weight variation.
The weight variation. The disintegration, dissolution, you know. Suddenly I shared something on the group. Yeah, listing them. I'll just read them out. We have for the semi-finished product here, it's the product that has not been packaged, right? It has not been packaged. So we have just our tablets, for example, just from the compression machine. We just made our tablets, we go collect a few, we look at the appearance, we look at the thickness, we look at the diameter, we look at the hardness, friability, disintegration test, dissolution, drug content. Remember drug content, by the way, and the weight variation. That is what we check in our tablet. Then after we've packed our tablet, we look, we test for if there's any leakage. Appearance, as always, you can take it to the bank. Appearance will always be there. Minimum information is legible, printing matter, cutting of blisters, and the yield, right? So, but majorly, the semi-finished products, yeah, those are the major ones that we should focus on. Stanley, thank you for that. Moving on to, unless someone has something to add on that, I believe that image that has been sent really summarizes them very easily.
Maybe we can also look at the defects.
Yeah. By the way, yeah, tablet defects. Yeah. So, yeah, tablet defects. Perhaps, Shuna, you can start us off, the one you know. And don't say capping.
Cracking, splitting.
Cracking. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so now we are looking at tablet defects. Cracking has been said, capping has been said, lamination has been said. Any other tablet defects that you may know of? Double impression, yeah. Sonia is talking about mottling, picking and sticking, right? The picking and sticking, yeah, mottling. Double impression, right? Whereby the punch has hit it twice instead of one. Brenda is talking about blooming, right? Blooming is also one of the defects that can happen. But for blooming, I believe for blooming is now with the coated tablets, right? For blooming and also, yeah, blooming majorly, that's for the coated. Brenda is saying that she's blushing. It's a tablet defect. I mean, it's a coating defect called blushing. Any other defects? Yes, see, something has been sent on the group. Nice. Again, Dr. Stanley comes through. Yeah, the sticking, the picking, and he's talking about the image really summarizes the possible causes and the corrective actions that can be taken. Thank you so much, Stanley. Yeah, double impression, thickness, all of those things, twinning, coming out 2-2. Yeah, nice. Thank you for that. So on your free time, I really encourage you just be going through these photos that are being sent on the group. The there's really a lot of content in those photos, and yeah. Moving on to number 178, question asked.
Please explain blooming and blushing.
Blooming and blushing. So blooming is whereby the coating will become like dull, like the other name for it is dull fill. So if it was a bright color, it becomes a dull color. And blushing is whereby it forms some whitish specks will appear. Whitish speck. Let me just say so in blooming essentially is the color, there's that dulling of the color, but in blushing, there's appearance of these whitish specks.
So thank you.
Welcome. So moving on to number 178, question asked that which one of the following is not, again, which one of the following is not. So even when you're doing your exam, the notes and except just highlight them in your brain so that you don't fail. So following is not a parenteral route of drug administration. So following is not a parenteral route of drug administration: intrathecal, subcutaneous, transdermal, or peridural. Which one is not a parenteral route of drug administration? Is it intrathecal, subcutaneous, peridural, or transdermal? Which one is not parenteral route of drug administration? Anyone? Brenda is saying transdermal is not a parenteral route of drug administration. Let me just ask, what route is peridural? Is it peridural? Just asking. I don't know about it. So how through what is this peridural administration? I've heard of epidural, but not peridural. So, anyone who knows?
I think it's supposed to be epidural. So if it was epidural, I think the answer is D.
So if it's epidural, the answer will be D.
If choice D was epidural, the answer would have been C. But now since I think peridural, I've never heard of it. So I think it's D.
So are we having someone perhaps with a different opinion? We are going with the transdermal. Yeah, parenteral, Nugal is saying that parenteral means the introduction of drugs into the body via routes other than the GIT, right?
Wait, peridural exists. It's when you inject a drug directly into the dura mater, the spine. According to the picture, it's the spinal cord. So we inject it with a small needle. It's not like a normal type of needle. It's just a specific one into the dura mater. So I think peridural is parenteral route. So transdermal would be.
So transdermal it is, right? Transdermal it is.
I have a question. What are the most strongest subcutaneous? Subcutaneous, like about transdermal
parenteral route. So someone sent something on the chat box. I'll just read it out. That there are 4 types of parenteral routes. These are IV, IM, sub-Q, and intrathecal. IV, IM, sub-Q, and intrathecal. So I think that then the answer will, yeah, I'm for the transdermal still one that just something.
I thought the parenteral, like, don't we use injections for parenteral route of administration? Like we're injecting it into the body, different types, different into the muscle, into the fat tissue and all that. So subcutaneous is still a form of injection. Transdermal is just like, directly, like you stick the patch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so injection, mainly parenteral involves injections.
Sorry. I think I not read the question well.
So moving on to, I think that one is straightforward. Routes of drug administration, that one, I know we are all experts, especially Dr. Comfort. I know she's an expert in that. Moving to number 179, the addition of large concentrations of certain additives to increase aqueous solubility is termed as what? Addition of large concentrations of certain additives to increase aqueous solubility is termed as what? The addition of large concentrations of certain additives to increase aqueous solubility is termed as what? Is it co-solvency? Is it hydrotropism? Is it solubilization? Or is it complexation? Addition of large amounts of large concentration of certain additives to increase aqueous solubility. Anyone with an idea? Solubilization. Shina is saying solubilization. Are we all in agreement? Silence means yes. There are no chats on the Zoom chat, so assuming that they are agreeing that that is solubilization. Based on that, as perhaps someone has two is talking about hydrotropy is defined as a solubilization process whereby addition of a large amount of a second solute results in an increase in the aqueous solubility of another solute. Hydrotropy is defined as a solubilization process whereby addition of a large amount of second solute results in an increase in the aqueous solubility of another solute. So Solubilization is the increase in solubility of a poorly water-soluble substance with surface active agents. So solubilization is the increase in solubility of a poorly soluble substance with surface active agent. So in solubilization, we will be adding surfactants or surface active agents. But in hydrotropy is whereby we are adding a large amount of second solute so as to increase the aqueous solubility of another solute. I think based on that explanation, I will say the answer is the hydrotropism. Yeah, she's supporting that hydrotropism may be the answer there. Anyone else with a different opinion? So hydrogen hydro, and based on the definition that she's given, it seems that appears that's the answer. Yeah, they are supporting for B, hydrotropism. But remember that is hydrotropism for pharmaceutics. Don't confuse it with hydrotropism from botany. They mean two different things. So hydrotropy, just to reread, hydrotropy is whereby you've added a large amount of a second solute so as to increase the aqueous solubility of another solute, right? But solubilization, we're just adding a surfactants. We are adding surfactants for the case of solubilization, right? Divya, I don't know if you can send even just something on the definition of co-solvency and complexation just while we are at it. Something on the, or if someone perhaps is well versed in what that means.
For complexation, I'm not sure, but I think it's when you have an insoluble drug and then to make it soluble, you put it in a soluble material. But I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay. Just while we get back to complexation, the definition, a co-solvent system is one in which a water miscible or partially miscible organic solvent is mixed with water so as to form a modified aqueous solution. And the phenomenon is called co-solvency. Co-solvents have some degree of hydrogen bond donating and or hydrogen bond accepting ability, as well as small hydrocarbon regions. So just to read it again on co-solvency, this is whereby you have a water soluble or a partially a water miscible or a partially miscible organic solvent. Kindly underline that. You have a water miscible or a partially miscible organic solvent, which will be mixed with water so as to form a modified aqueous solution. That is the phenomenon of co-solvency, and that co-solvent should have or usually have a hydrogen bond donating and or a hydrogen bond accepting capability, as well as small hydrocarbon regions. To say it in the way one of our professors said it, a co-solvent is whereby you're having two friends, whereby perhaps me, I know Divya, and then Divya knows, let me say Mystique. So Divya will be the co-solvent who will bring me and Mystique pamoja. It's a common friend, right? So that's why it's a common friend between A and B. So remember, if this is a solution, we are having an organic part and an aqueous part. But this co-solvent, we are seeing the co-solvent is partially miscible in water, and it also contains an organic part, right? So it's a friend to all, you know, friend to all. Complexation, finally, this is the process of complex formation. That is the process of characterization, the covalent or non-covalent interaction between two or more compounds. So simply, I think it's just as Hiral had described, simply is about forming a complex, right? Forming a complex. Moving on to number 180. The question asks, which one of the following
Hey,
is...
guys. Okay, an example for that solvency, I think we had mentioned in class or something, was the one for phenobarbital elixir. So propylene glycol acts as a co-solvent because it enhances the solubility of the phenobarbital in that. Now that's in what is it called? That mechanism that you have explained for co-solvency. In that it's what is it called? It helps in solubilizing now the water insoluble. Now, like yeah. Now the water insoluble is the phenobarbital.
Great. Thank you. See, the number 180, the question asks that which of the following is false regarding flocculation in suspension. See, just covered flocculations. I'm expecting the chat box to fill with answers. I'm expecting 34 people to unmute and just say, oh, that one is this choice. So which one is false, right? False. The keyword there is false. About regarding flocculation in suspensions. Number one, the zeta potential lies within the range of plus 25 millivolts. The electric repulsive forces are weaker than the attractive van der Waals forces. It causes caking of suspension, and the particles can be resuspended by simple shaking. Which one is false? Right? Which one is false regarding flocculation in suspension? Shina has said that it causes caking of suspension. Say that is false. That the other choices, the zeta potential will lie within the range of plus 25 millivolts. That the electric repulsive forces will be weaker than the attractive forces. And D, that the particles can be resuspended by simple shaking. Are we all in agreement about number 180?
Yes.
Great. Moving on to number 181. The question asks about surfactants used as emulsifying agents in oil in water emulsions. Oil in water emulsions. They have a HLB value, hydrofoil lipophil balance of oil in water emulsion. You want it to be between what and what, or above what value? It usually should be above 9. So the best choice will be 8 to 18. Then for the oil in water, that is oil in water emulsion. So what would be the desired HLB value for water in oil? What would be the desired HLB value for water in oil?
Below 9.
Below 9. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Somewhere Shina said that, yeah, 3.5 to 8. Yeah. So 3 to 8. Then the 1 to 3 will usually be the antifoam, such things. But yeah, essentially below 9, you're good. If you want to be more specific, 3 to 8. And HLB value, I think HLB value is at simple, yeah, 4 to 6. Yeah, still the same. Yeah, choice A would be for the water in oil emulsion. 182, unless someone has something on HLB value. I think for that one is just about the value, nothing so much. Procaine penicillin injection, BP, is an example of what? Procaine penicillin injection is an example of. Is it an aqua solution? Is it an aqua suspension? Is it an oily suspension? Or is it a colloid solution? Procaine penicillin injection.
Oily suspension.
Oily suspension. It's administered through which route?
IM.
IM, nice.
So even is it benzyl penicillin or penicillin G is the same as procaine? Because I'm not sure which is the other one that is it can only be administered as IM.
Yeah, it's benzyl penicillin. It's just that this one we've added the painkiller, the procaine. So it's the same. At the end of the day, it's the benzyl penicillin. Just for this one, procaine.
We have not added the procaine, but it's a salt. It's not another drug. Procaine penicillin.
It's a salt.
Yeah, it's a salt. It's not two drugs combined.
Nice. It's a salt. It's not two drugs combined. Thank you for that. Moving on to number.
Yeah, they're actually not salts. Like easy sulfadoxine proxetyl, cefuroxime acetyl. They're just like they can be hydrolyzed for them to be orally active. Like they're made as prodrugs. So they're hydrolyzed, then they can be orally active, but then they're not salts. It's like they're esterified at that point. Yeah. But then nakumbuka tukiambiwa they're not salts by our lecturer in PharmChem. Yeah.
The likes of cefuroxime, acetyl, such.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Anywhere, perhaps anyone else with something? Okay. Thank you for the contribution. So moving on to number 183. Yeah, the question is, which one of the following statements is true? Line true. Which one of the following statements is true about microcapsules? Which one of the following statements is true about microcapsules? It may consist of a liquid core containing one or more drugs enclosed in a coating. They have a size range of between 1 to 2,000 micrometers. Gelatin is not a suitable coating material. They can be produced by spray drying. So which one of the following statement is true? Which is a true statement about microcapsules? Which is a true statement about microcapsules? Which one is a true statement about microcapsules? Someone just added just on the previous question about procaine penicillin that procaine is often used in combination with certain antibiotics such as penicillin G to form a medication known as procaine penicillin. In this context, cocaine will serve two main purposes. The first purpose, prolonged release. So when procaine is added to penicillin, it's to slow down the release of penicillin from the injection site. This results in a more sustained and prolonged action of the antibiotic, allowing it to remain in the body for an extended period. And this can help reduce the frequency of dosing, making it more convenient for patient. And secondly, for the reduced pain, addition of procaine to penicillin will help to reduce the pain or discomfort associated with the injection of penicillin through procaine acting as a local anesthetic, hence numbing the injection site. Thank you for that addition. So back to number 183, back to number 183. We are stop there.
I'm not sure, but here number 183, I'm reading somewhere that for microcapsules, the particle size ranges between 1 and 100 micrometers. And then for how they are produced, it's either by interfacial condensation, in situ polymerization, or conservation. You don't use spray drying. So now I'm thinking it's not B, it's not D. But I don't know anything about it other than what I've just read now.
I've also seen gelatin is usually the coating material on Google, so I'm not sure. So maybe that also removes C.
Okay. So gelatin is usually the coating material. We've seen also the size there is not true. So menu choice A and choice D.
For the methods of production, we have 3: interfacial condensation, in situ polymerization, and conservation. Let me just send that in the chat.
So while she's sending it on the chat, we looked at tablets. Now we can just quickly look at the capsules. The IPQC test for capsules, types of capsules, right? Such things. So capsules. What do you know about capsules? You can even say amoxicillin comes in a capsule. No, that's something.
So they can either have the soft gelatin shell or hard shelled capsules.
Mhm.
So the hard shelled capsules will contain the dry powder ingredients, and like soft gelatin is just like, how do you explain? It's just one, and it can either be a liquid. It in the semi-solid phase, it can either have the liquid suspension or a semi-solid.
Nice. So the hard shell and so the gelatin capsule. So the gelatin is like the 7 C's capsule. That's a gelatin capsule, right? So it's yeah. So for the amoxicillin capsule, see it will have the two parts. It will have the head and it will have the cap. But the gelatin, you really can't say at oh, this part is the what. It's just one whole thing.
Also the size. I think for humans, we consume the 000 size.
Humans who consume 000.
Yeah, and then we also need to know the factors that are needed for the capsule shell, like it has the gelatin, plasticizer, opaque matter, and colorant and preservatives. And preservatives are only used for the soft gelatin.
Preservatives are only used for the soft gelatin capsules. Yeah, the Kina 7Cs. When you say soft, I think 7Cs. Yeah, she talked about the colorant, the plasticizer, the opaquing agent.
Also, we have the vegetarian capsules, which can either be made of HPMC or ululan capsules.
So the vegetarian capsules can either be made of the HPMC or the Kululan capsule. Moving on to the IPQC test for capsules, or are the QC tests for the capsules? Always take mine to the bank. Appearance. See, appearance, you can take it anywhere. Any other QC tests for capsules? Disintegration, dissolution, of course, those will also be there. Uniformity of content, weight uniformity. So those ones they just share with the tablet. So which ones are the unique ones for the capsules? Anyone? QC test for capsules. QC test for capsules.
The Bloom test for gelatins. It measures
Bloom
the
test
strength.
for gelatin.
Yeah, it measures the strength of the gelatin. So determines the weight in grams needed by a specified plunger to depress the surface of the gel by 4 millimeters without breaking it. So like it measures how much the weight in grams that's needed, the amount of weight that's needed to depress it by 4 millimeters. So if most gelatins have 30 to 300 milligram bloom. So that's and then the higher the bloom value, the higher the melting and gelling points of a gel, and the shorter it's gelling. So bloom strength is in range of 150 to 200 milligram, suitable for capsules.
Great. So she talked about the bloom strength of gelatin, whereby it will measure the weight in grams that will be needed to depress that gel or that surface of the gel by the 4 millimeters without it breaking. And the higher a bloom value, the higher the melting and the gelling point. The higher the bloom value, the higher the melting and the gelling point. To show that the bloom value is between 30 to 300. So bloom value, dissolution, disintegration, appearance, weight variation, uniformity of contact, any other?
So we have the bloom value and the bloom strength. Yeah, in it. So the bloom value is the one that is between 30 to 300 grams. And the bloom strength is between 150 to 280.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Anyone else with something to add on capsules?
Moisture permeation test.
Moisture permeation test.
So for that, if there's moisture, then obviously there'll be a color change in the capsules. So that will indicate absorption of moisture. And also you measure before and after adding the pellets.
Great. So the moisture permeation test.
I think you use silica gel crystals. So they're pink. Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm confused for that. Just a minute.
I think they're blue, and then when they absorb moisture, they become pink. Yeah.
Yes.
So for the moisture permeation test, use a silica
Gel crystals.
So when they absorb moisture, they will change from what to what?
Blue to pink.
Blue to pink. Yeah, blue. So moisture permeation test. Yeah.
Angle of repose and bulk density.
Yeah, they hadn't been said. Angle of repose to test the flowability and bulk density. Okay. Can move. Next question reads. Sorry. Seraphine had sent something that now lands us to choice A, that the microcapsules will be produced by the coagulation, interfacial condensation, and in situ polymerization. So that removes choice D, right? We saw gelatin is a suitable coating material, and the size range is between 1 to, was it 200 micrometers? Just Seraphine, maybe you can confirm. Was it 1 to 200 micrometers?
1 to 100.
Or 1 to 100? Okay, so that leaves us with choice A as the true answer. You can just finish this page, I think, up to 186, and we call it a weekend. The procreator of all this has been silent. So moving on to number 184. What are the 3 basic principles of packaging? What are the 3 basic principles of packaging? Right? Why do we package? What are the 3 basic principles? Is it to protect contain and to identify, to label, contain, and tamper-proof, to identify, to contain, and to label, tamper-proofing, containment, and identification. What are the three basic principles of packaging? I think by elimination, can all agree choice A. One of the key things about packaging is protection, right? That's a major thing with packaging. You have to protect, and all the other choices, they have nothing on protection. So protection, containment, and identification. Protect your dosage form, contain your dosage form, and to identify the dosage form. Moving on to OTC preparations. OTC, we don't need to even to dwell on this. These are medications that can be purchased without a prescription, right? Mara moja, Panadol, these are OTC. Moving on to number 186. Our last, this is the last question of the day. The question asks, which one of the following advisory labels is recommended when dispensing to a patient metronidazole tabs? You're giving a patient metronidazole. What will you advise them to do? I'm sure you guys have dispensed metronidazole 100 times before. This is a walkover. What do you advise your metronidazole patients?
Apart from the options, I think you should also say do not consume alcohol.
And nice, avoid alcohol, though some pharmacists say that it's a suggestion. They say alcohol may enhance, this drug may enhance the effects of alcohol. It's a suggestion. But yeah, avoid alcohol. Do they take it with meals or without, on an empty stomach? Metronidazole. Flagyl, it's commonly known as flagyl. Are they to take it with food or without food? Stanley has added that the medication can cause a disulfiram-like reaction if co-administered with alcohol. What about the food? Perhaps you're dispensing metronidazole to an 8-year-old who is not drinking. So what will you tell them about food? Take them after eating, before eating, on an empty stomach, without regard to meals. Yeah, that you will advise the patient to take it with a meal or after a meal. Yeah, remember, metronidazole adds this metallic taste, so advise the patient to take it with or just after a meal. With a meal is better. Rather, that's what they say. With a meal is better rather than after a meal. Yeah. So number 186, choice D. Someone is asking, should all antibiotics be taken with or after a meal? Should all antibiotics be taken with or after a meal? I'd say that's not because
Not
there's
all.
Not all, yeah, because something like tetracycline can't be taken with food. You need a gap of 1 or 2 hours before and after the meal. I think.
stuff like, flucloxacillin,
Yeah.
it's on an empty stomach, yeah. And also some nanizadine that it's also taken with food. This is metronidazole to increase absorption and to decrease GI upset. Someone is also adding that not all food reduce ampicillin absorption. We'll stop there. Thank you for the active engagement in the chat box. Yeah, it's been nice. It's been enlightening as always. I advise you to all those photos that have been sent on the group, all those links. They are really educative because the next time we see such a question, we won't go through that content again. So kindly, on your free time, just go through those photos slowly, learn from them. Otherwise, have a great night. Thank you.
Sorry, I just have a question before